This video is sponsored by Aquashine Exteriors, professional jet washing and cleaning services across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, including Dorset, Hampshire and Wiltshire. Are you feeling it's time to get that driveway nice and shiny for when you come home, or are you wanting to get that guttering tidied up and spotless again? They deliver this, plus much, much more. Please head into the description below where you'll find their details for their website, including the socials, Facebook and Instagram. You also need to find their before and after portfolio. You can also call them on 07503 998 088 for a free quotation. Don't wait till next week. Don't think you'll do it another day. Pick up the phone, give them a call, check them out. Good evening. We are live on YouTube. It's Thursday. You know what that means? Turn off your Europa League. It's match preview in the Premier League as Bournemouth prepare to travel up north to take on Leeds. It's just Leeds. There's no need to add any more words. It's just Bournemouth versus Leeds. And we have the interactive chat open this evening. For both sets of fans, do get involved. Do let us know how you're feeling on all the topics we're going to talk about. Lots and lots to talk about because, boy, do we need something from this game on Saturday. If you're new to Cherries Red Army, please do subscribe. Help us in our journey. And, of course, we want you to hit that like button. It's so easy. Minimum. We set a minimum of 50. Last week, we got exactly 50. So, look, let's get to 50 and try and push on and maybe get an extra one in there. So hit the like button. And, of course, if you're catching this video back because you couldn't watch it live, do let us know your thoughts in the comments ahead of kickoff. Right, big game. Look, lots of players that have played for X teams and previous teams and Bournemouth and Leeds. Lots to talk about. And both teams are only very close to each other in the league. So let's get involved. Let's get our opposition chat started. And then we'll focus on the Cherries for the rest of the preview. Let's do it. Match preview.
Cheeky one, square, and
Kicking off the show with our opposition view, it's a pleasure to welcome Darren from the LS11. How are you doing, Darren? Thank you for coming on.
Thanks very much for having me, Kirk. It's a real pleasure to talk a bit of Cherries and a bit of Leeds United. So thanks very much for having me.
Looking forward to it. Tell us about the LS11 and all the content you've got ahead this weekend.
LS11 has been running for around about 5 years now. Started at a radio station that I worked at alongside the co-host of mine, which is Ryan Wilson from a band called the Pigeon Detectives, who have played Bournemouth many times. And alongside former Leeds United player Ben Parker. So we've been doing that for sort of about 4 or 5 years now, and were nominated for a British Podcast Award for Best Sports Podcast. We didn't win, but it was, nice to be nominated. No, it was devastating. We should have bloody won. So it's been going pretty well. We've just hit 1 million downloads about 3 weeks ago. So pretty happy with sort of like how it's going. But right at the moment, since it's got in the Premier League, everybody's got a Leeds United podcast. So there's quite a bit of choice out there.
And there's lots of you joining us this evening, just showing your names on the screen. And Martin's also said that Chris Sutton has predicted a Leeds win. That's a good news for the Cherries. He doesn't get a lot right. But also there are the details for LS11 in the description below. Do check them out this weekend because I was their opposition guest. So go and check out that preview as well. But Darren, we do want to start with talking about Leeds. And we always go back to that previous fixture. Leeds United stopped the rot at Anfield. It was a 2-1 win, left it late, but they got there. I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing from them. Is the pressure now on? Talk to us about that 2-1 victory, though.
Well, if you're talking pressure, the pressure was on before the Liverpool game because lots of people were saying Jesse Marsh, the Leeds manager, coach, whatever you want to call him, was under severe pressure after sort of no wins in like 3 or 4, no goals. It was just a terrible run, really, that they were on. So he was under severe pressure. They needed to do something in that game against Liverpool. And, well, I think a lot of fans were pretty happy with how that sort of like turned out at the end, especially popping up with a little last minute winner with Crescencio Somerville getting the winner at Anfield. So yeah, look, it was a huge game for Leeds United, and I think lots of Leeds fans went into it pretty fearful, really, that especially after Salah equalised. They made a terrible mistake for the first goal. Rodrigo couldn't have missed that, basically. He could have done, but he didn't. But then when Salah equalised really quickly, I think a lot of people were a little bit fearful that, Liverpool could put the foot on the gas and really pummel Leeds. But that didn't happen. Leeds really, really played well. For the first time that I've seen them play that well in a little while, I must admit. And it was a fantastic game, I think, really. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, good Lord, it shouldn't have been on a Saturday night. It was a ridiculous fixture. There was no trains back from Liverpool to Leeds after the match. It was a terrible time for the game to go ahead. But I think most Leeds fans were pretty happy after that at the end of the day, because coming away from Anfield with 3 points, I think Liverpool at the moment is they're going for a bit of a sticky patch, really. There's no doubt about that. Losing to Forest, now losing to Leeds. They're not doing too well. But like you say, pressure probably now on. They need to back that up now, really, because we've seen it earlier on in the season that Leeds have done well against some of the better teams. The teams that, for want of a better word, that go out and try and play football. Leeds seem to do okay with those teams. So your Chelseas, your Arsenals, and now Liverpool. But the teams that sort of set up in a pretty defensive, and Leeds struggle to break them down this season. And it's been, that's where Leeds have really found some problems. So they absolutely need to back it up. Getting that 3 points is all well and good at Liverpool, but if they don't go ahead and beat at home Bournemouth at the weekend, it's sort of like, and suddenly the pressure's, I think, all back on Jesse Marsch again.
I tell you one thing that's guaranteed is Liverpool do us no favours. They've taken enough money off us lots of years ago, and look, they've also taken us to the sword this year, and they've done us no favours last weekend off the back of our result. But look, we've got to keep our heads high going into this fixture. Look, talk to me about Jesse Marsch. We did a preview video before the season started, and I predicted him to be sacked first. I thought he might struggle, but when I look at the squad, and I have looked at the squad, Darren, there are some experience in there. You like Bamford, Rodrigo, I think Cooper's in there as well. But you've got a lot of young talent, and is that hard to sort of build into a very strong league and get consistent results?
Yeah, it is. Like you say, there is a bit of experience in there, but Rodrigo's not really hit the heights that I think Leeds fans really, really wanted him to. He was a bit of a star signing when they got him, but he was, he probably hasn't really played fantastically well since being at Leeds. He's had some good games, he's had some terrible games. Bamford coming off the back of basically a season out injured, and you saw on Saturday night that his first touch isn't there just at the moment. I think he will come good. And it's nice to see that they're sort of like keeping with him, because they don't have a vast amount of choice in the striker department, which is one of the areas where I think Leeds have got issues. They haven't really got anybody sort of replaced him. Obviously, Willy Gnonto came in on the deadline day. But they were going to be buying Willy Gnonto in January, but they obviously pulled it forward because the other targets that they were going for, the rumours were around Cody Gakpo. There was a De Ketelaere as well, that these deals didn't come off. So they really pushed the Gnonto deal through earlier than they wanted to. But you got to admit, this kid is starting for Italy. He's been playing in the under-23s, and he's been playing really, really well. And when he came on against Liverpool, you're thinking, oh, hello, this guy is pretty damn good. But I think that sort of like youthfulness that he's got, and he just seems to have that no fear. He's got a really low center of gravity. People don't know really what to do with him. I think he's excellent. But the key players and the ones that Marsh has, I think, been sort of key, maybe getting them in, is two, I think, that most Leeds fans are really, really happy with, which is Brendan Aronson. And that deal was done pretty much soon as Leeds stayed in the Premier League. It was going to be done sort of like the year before and then sort of fell through. But it's happened at the beginning of the transfer window. And also then Tyler Adams, and I think when you look at those two players, I mean, I fear for England playing against the USA in the World Cup, because I think Aronson and Adams, if they're in that team, they'll run them ragged. I mean, Aronson is an absolute baller. There's no doubt. His touch, his quick feet. He always can pick out a pass, and he's very, very quick. And Adams covers so much space and covers so much ground during the game. I think his stats are just unbelievable. Across the whole of Europe, I think he runs more than any other midfielder. It's like ridiculous stats that he's got. So I think he's done well with those players. But I think one of the issues with Jesse Marsh has been maybe not knowing what his complete 11 should be, and that's been one of the issues. And sometimes that's been forced by certain injuries, and obviously Silastera being out now, his injury is going to take him out probably until after the World Cup. Now he's not going to feature in the next 3 games, so he's out until after the World Cup with some sort of metatarsal injury. So that's a bit of a loss, because he was on fire as well before he got his injury. He was fantastic. But Aronson and Adams are absolute quality, and I think they'd walk into any team right now. So they've got their 2 great players, but I think Jesse Marsh is still under some severe pressure, really. One result is not going to solve the problem that they've got. And like you say, he probably was a favourite for most people to get sacked the first. He talks a good game, but, you know, I think we always talk in the Premier League and always talk with football, you've got to give managers time. But fans don't like that sometimes when results aren't going their way. And it's difficult, I think, because fans will always, you know, some Leeds fans are like, well, you've got to bring Bielsa back. You're like, well, I don't think you can go backwards anymore. No. You've got to look forward, really. And, you know, the Liverpool result has given him a slight reprieve, I think, no doubt about that. And, you know, Leeds fans, they want to see him do well. They want to see the team do well. And if that happens under Marsh, then fantastic. But I think he's got. I definitely think now whatever happens over the weekend in the next few games, he's probably got until the beginning of the World Cup, and then they'd probably reassess. I think there's a few teams that are probably in that boat as well that will probably just like reassess what's going to happen during the World Cup before they open up the purse strings in January, because the Leeds' next game back is not until the 28th of December. So, and then you're straight into the January transfer window. But yeah, no, look, he is under pressure. I think the Liverpool game doesn't take that away from him. I think but they've got to back that up now with the game against the Cherries.
I think if we could go back 3 managers, I think we might do that. But that manager's now going to magical heights, so that's never going to happen. Phoenix Reborn 60s also talking about how good Aronson and Adams is, and they, we wish we could have those types of players in our football team. I'm sure of that. Look, let's get your thought on a Leeds perspective about Bournemouth then. I mean, look, we were 6 unbeaten under Gary O'Neill before that Southampton loss. Then we were poor against West Ham. We threw a 2-0 lead away against Spurs. I mean, how are Leeds feeling about this Bournemouth team? Any players you're worried about from our side?
For me, I mean, you look at your centre forward, you look at Kiefer Moore, and I've got a lot of love for him because he's one of those players that's played just like in every single league, probably from Sunday League upwards. Yeah. And, you know, I think he's just a great old-fashioned centre forward that's just got an amazing touch, and the finishes for his goals against Tottenham. Leeds would love that right now. I think they would love someone like that as a striker. So I think, you know, that forward line, and I know it sort of like tweaks around that forward line because of, you know, if you're going to be playing Kiefer Moore there. So I think Leeds have got to, you know, be careful, I think, around that. But I think I think most Leeds fans will be going into this game a little bit bullish and expecting a win. I think, when you're both in, 1 point away from each other, Leeds and Bournemouth at the moment.
Yep.
So they're both really sort of like fighting just to keep above that relegation zone for the World Cup and then just take a few breaths, I think, while the World Cup's coming on. Because the last thing you want to be in is Leeds don't want to be in a relegation battle like they were in last season, coming down to the last game of the season. No one wants that. As exciting as it might be for the neutral, it's no fun. So I think most Leeds fans will be expecting to win this one at the weekend. Bournemouth, like you say, coming off the back, they need a response after last weekend, I think. 2 goals up against Tottenham. I was thinking, this is amazing. They're going to beat Tottenham. And then to lose 3-2, and you're sort of like, that is an absolute sucker punch, really. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because you could sort of like see it going either way. Leeds could be full of confidence going into this and go out hammer and tongs. But then Bournemouth could be coming up to Ellen Road. Fantastic atmosphere, 38,000 in Ellen Road this weekend. And really step up and have a point to prove after something that happened last weekend. And like you say, coming off a pretty terrible run. So you've got both teams that have been on terrible runs. Leeds have just got that little bit of positivity after winning at Anfield. But it does set up for a fantastic game. I think there's no doubt about that.
Fantastic game. But Darren, I'm going to need a score prediction from you to leave you on this opposition view. How are you feeling about the fixture in regards to a result?
Okay, right. And I'm going to give you the same score prediction I gave on my opposition view and I've done in the LS11 podcast. Well, I'll tell you, Ryan, who's a massive Leeds United fan on the podcast, I think he went 2-1 Leeds. I think Ben went for 2-1 as well. I'm going for an 8-all draw. I think because, as you may tell from my accent, I am from Bournemouth. So I can't. I've covered Leeds United for 20 years, so I'm staying very neutral, and I'm saying 8-all and well done. And I hope it's a great game. And
I don't think either manager could take credit for that. 16 goals being conceded between them. It'd be an absolute cracker. I'm sure it'd be history as well. AFC Bournemouth Germany is spot on. We've never won at Leeds. In fact, I don't think we've even taken a point at Leeds.
Even in the championship? Even in the championship?
Nothing.
Okay.
So just laying that on the line. That could make things very interesting for Saturday. Darren, it's been great to speak to you. Make sure you check out LS11 on their podcast this weekend. I'm on there for their opposition view, and I'm sure they'll be doing reviews as well. But Darren, thank you very much for giving us your thoughts ahead of this match preview and fixture in the Premier League.
Thanks very much.
Fantastic. We're going to continue with the match preview where we push the full focus to Bournemouth. We got a couple of Bournemouth fans coming up, and we want you to hit that like button, subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Here we go then. Love it. Jon, you're back on a preview. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me again. It's been a little bit of time since my last appearance on a preview, so I'm glad to be back after my trip down south to watch Bournemouth live. Just shame it couldn't have been a slightly different end after that one.
Absolutely, and you absolutely battered me at snooker as well, but it was fun. Now, I love in this one, David Codron from Melbourne. Tell us what time it is. Thanks for joining us on this match preview. How you doing, buddy?
Good work. Very well, thanks, Kirk. It's 6:20 in the morning here.
So, look, give that a like. David's got up at 6:20, whatever it is.
I was up at 5:30.
5:30. Look, preparation for this match preview, but David's joining us from Australia, AFC Bournemouth fan. Absolutely love it. Also want to take the opportunity now to thank our channel supporter members for your support. And also we've had some individual donations come in recently. AFC Bournemouth Germany. We've had Martin. We've also had, it'll come to me in a moment. I'm trying to remember it. It was Ethan's granddad. He also dropped us a donation as well. So you can become a member or donate to the channel at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. And as always, we'll start to focus on Bournemouth. But quickly, Jon, any thoughts on what Darren had to say about Leeds leading into this game?
Yeah, I mean Leeds is a really odd one in that basically they do really well against the best teams in the division, and they just can't seem to get anything from the teams lower down. They were really unlucky to lose to Arsenal. They definitely didn't deserve to lose to them. Then they go and they've beaten Liverpool last time out. It's an interesting one. I think that something we may come on to at some point discussing the matchup is this quite possibly is the worst opposition that Leeds will come up against this season in terms of how Bournemouth are playing and what Leeds want to do to an opposition team. We just need to take the best advantage of that that we can. But there's a lot of very good players in that Leeds side, a number of very hard workers, but they haven't performed as well as I think they probably can. But there's still a lot of people that you need to be wary of in that team.
Dave, they don't sound like they want the football. We're likely to give them the football. And is that going to be their downfall on Saturday?
Yeah, I think our strength on Saturday is going to be our ability to get past their press and hopefully get in behind their defence, because they are quite vulnerable in that side of their game. But if they win the ball against us in our defensive third, then it could be trouble for us. So it's just going to be about quality on the ball and being able to use our strengths and exploit their weaknesses.
And we're going to talk about that last fixtures for Bournemouth very, very, very soon. But we are going to talk about Guess the Player. We're going to give you 3 clues between now and the end of the show. And at the end of the show, I will give you an opportunity to guess who you think I'm talking about. And this is a player that potentially has played for Bournemouth or Leeds or has some sort of connection. And John and Dave, I'm going to give the clue right now. The first clue is that this player played for both AFC Bournemouth and Leeds and is right-footed. Straight in there, you can already probably take one name out. Okay, that's your first clue for Guess the Player. I don't want the answers yet in the chat. I will ask you later on, and you'll have an opportunity to try and guess the player. But that is your first clue. Right, Dave. We went into Tottenham, nothing to lose. People were saying it was a good time to play Tottenham. We were brilliant for 55 minutes. Let's stay positive for a moment. Kiefer Moore came into the team. Jordan Zamora came into the team. We created corners. We scored 2 very good goals. Absolutely perfect for 55 minutes.
Pretty much got that spot on there, Kirk. It was a good first hour and good to see us score on a counter-attack as well. Definitely nullified Tottenham's ability to attack. I don't think, other than the Marcos Senesi defensive header that went against our post, there was really no troubles to our goals, and it looked fairly comfortable for the majority of that game, or the majority of the first 60 minutes. And then, unfortunately, just one mental lapse and concentration switch off by Tavernier, I think it was, that allowed Sessegnon to get in behind. And once they get that first goal, that gives them a little bit of belief, and the rest was history.
It was, and we'll talk a little bit about the rest in a moment. But John, Marcus Tavernier got his first assist for Bournemouth, hopefully many more to come. But those first 55 minutes, like David said, they did hit the post, but we pretty much played a perfect game. Tottenham had players on the bench, probably preparing for Marseille, but we weren't expecting to be 2-0 up, and we were in a great position. The atmosphere was fantastic, really getting behind the team. And I was really impressed after 55 minutes how well we were doing.
Yeah, I think we were all absolutely delighted with going in 1-0 up. And I think that it's kind of weird, actually. Getting the second goal almost sort of went against us in the end, because it sort of encouraged Conte to make changes quicker than he probably would have done. And obviously, in the end, obviously their first goal through Sessegnon, was just before he made, his first set of changes. But we were very well organised defensively. I think I saw a stat pop up on Twitter that someone had snipped from SofaScore that I think at half time, Tottenham put in, I think it was 23 crosses and had completed 1 in the first 45 minutes. We allowed them a lot more space than I think is ideal in wide areas, particularly on our left-hand side. Billing was Billing and Zamora were finding it tough, quite often going up against three players. But they put in a lot of crosses, and we just defended them all. Adam Smith put in a really good, almost goal line clearance from one cross, but most of them weren't really that troubling. And it was a really, really good performance. The breakaway goal, the counter attack was really well done. I think defensively they were terrible. Tottenham, and they massively missed Romero and Dyer. But as soon as Dyer came on, he performed really well. And I think it was just as soon as they put their better players on the pitch, they just turned it on. And that was unfortunately sort of whilst yes, obviously it was set pieces for the second and third. They were creating so many more opportunities. They were forcing us to put the ball out for corners. We had to just put in a lot of blocks and last second flicks away from really good opportunities before, and it was just an onslaught that we weren't doing enough to prevent. And there's been a lot of conversations about O'Neill's part in the substitutions he made on the day, and I think we need to do more to not give away corners, particularly against a team like Tottenham. I think our attackers, when we get the ball, when we win off them, they need to try and get fouls from them rather than really run down blind alleys and give the ball back to them quite often. There's a lot of ways to look at most of that game, but in the end, we forced them to really sort of dig in deep and get very lucky in the end with just a ball dropping to Bentancur for the winner. And I was very pleased with that performance generally from Bournemouth. There's obviously disappointment. I don't look at that game in the same way I think a lot of people have. I think that you can look at a 1 hour of fantastic football, and in the end, 30 minutes of just, there's a lot to learn. But we were very good for an hour.
Dave, it's the hope that kills you, along with the individual mistakes and inviting pressure. That's the Premier League. We know how Nottingham Forest feel right now. But yeah, I mean, looking at those errors, I think Travers is a little bit rusty. I think you spoke about Tavernier not following the run. I actually think Adam Smith was caught out with Son's movement that opened up the space for Sessegnon to run into. And the third one's just a bit of a mess, which Gary O'Neill talked about in his presser. But yeah, individual mistakes and inviting pressure, never going to end well with a good team applying pressure.
Yeah, that's right. When you're forced back and defending for half an hour, attack after attack, it's very difficult to have 100% record of how you defend. And I thought in general play, we kept them at bay. And yeah, I agree with John. We gave them a few too many corners, and we didn't retain possession well enough. But those individual mistakes were really from set pieces, and it's a little bit of a repeat situation for us this season, that we just aren't able to defend set pieces as well as we'd like to. That being said, we do give a lot of them away. So when you give away 19 corners, it's tough to defend each one of them perfectly.
I was just happy to see us have a corner, John. We did a watch along for 2 hours and had absolutely nothing against West Ham. Let's get back on a little bit of positive. They just handed out the club the Player of the Month. I say positive. Marcos Senesi bagged it. Is someone going to feel a little bit disappointed they were not in the running to win Player of the Month, John?
Yeah, I think Chris Mepham can feel hard done by that. Really, I think if you're going to pick out a centre back, you might as well have done both, because Mepham's defensive numbers are better. Just empirically, his clearance numbers are better. His block shot numbers are better. But Senesi is slightly different. He's definitely more technically capable. He definitely pushes himself. He's one of the few ways that we can really change things up in just impromptu, because he will just charge out of defense with the ball, which is a bit risky. But when you're playing with a back five, you can kind of get away with it. So, and I do like that aspect to his game. He is not afraid at all to just have the ball, look up, see open space, and just run into it, which I think Chris Mepham maybe needs to learn a thing or two from occasionally, because he is very defensive with his... he doesn't take very many risks at all with his passing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I don't have an issue with Senesi winning the award. I think he has been very good. I think there's been a lot of very good stuff from him. But yes, Mepham can feel a bit hard done by. I've seen a few comments as well that essentially he has been playing as a centre-back, so you could have put Adam Smith in there as well. I do think that there are more question marks I'd have on Adam Smith defensively, but at the same time, he has impressed. Definitely, he has been very good defensively for the most part, and obviously a fantastic assist with a wonderful cross in for Kiefer Moore against Tottenham, which definitely counts for something, because it's probably more attacking than he's done for us in the last, 9 months.
So it's nice to see him in that zone.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, but I mean, Lerma was in there, and he's certainly done well. I think Solanke was in there. Was it Tavernier? I've forgotten who the other. No, Neto. That was it. Who was obviously performed very well, and unfortunately will be out won't be back until the least after the World Cup, if not New Year. So that's a shame. But yeah, Mepham I think is certainly a little bit hard done by. But then I think at the same time, at the end of matches, I've looked at the selection on Twitter of 3 or 4 of, like, particularly if it's 3 players, and you think the guy that's your favourite man of the match isn't in the 3, and you just, what game have you been watching? No. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have find the choices for man of the match on any day is questionable, let alone player of the month. But yeah, I'm pleased for Marco Senesi, because he's had big shoes to step in for Lloyd Kelly, and he has been very good since Kelly got injured.
When I looked at that image, Dave, I almost felt like it was a bit like Ants picking up the trophy for him and Deck. So I think there's a bit of Mepham in there for Senesi. I think he knows he's probably done well to get that award alongside his teammate. But your thoughts on Chris Mepham, who continues to prove a lot of fans wrong? He's getting that run in the team, which a lot of people said is all he needed. And he's been rock solid pretty much all season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd put my hand up as well. I was definitely one who criticised him at times in the championship. And, the comment that John made earlier about Senesi taking a bit more risks and Mepham being a little bit more defensively minded, I think comes from his history of making some defensive errors and just wanting to shore up his game. And I feel that he's done that. He's not giving away as many silly fouls. His defensive work is fantastic, and yeah, can't really fault him for anything this season. I mean, I know that there was some criticism in the Liverpool game, but I don't think anyone was fantastic that day. I didn't see much of it because I was in the bar drinking beers during that one. But yeah, no, he's been fantastic all season, and I'm so thrilled for him, because he's definitely been on the end of some criticism over his time at Bournemouth.
Just a quick one there on Kirk, actually, as Dave mentioned it. I was looking at some stats on FBref, and I found it interesting. According to FBref, who I think are pretty reliable, not a single Bournemouth player has made a mistake that led to an opposition shot so far this season. Okay. And when you consider what Bournemouth were like last time they were back here with under Eddie, the amount of goals, and bearing in mind this isn't goals, and obviously Travers has made a mistake or two in goal. Bournemouth aren't taking any risks at the back. There's been 1 or 2 opportunities where Bournemouth have made a slight mistake, have made maybe one slight error, but generally have not, just haven't suffered for it yet. I think that stat I think Kelly actually does give a ball away. I remember against Wolves. I think that's the only time that I can think of where a player has made a genuine mistake where a chance should have was created. But we've been so much safer on the ball at the back. And while that has been detrimental to our attack, it has meant that it's been much better defensively.
He did clear the ball off the line, so we let him get away with it. He did save us the point in the end. And we are going to talk about Gary O'Neill's presser in a bit, where he spoke about the team and the confidence that we need to go into this match. But John and Dave, we need a second clue and guess the player to hopefully get you closer to who we are talking about. So your first clue was that he's played for AFC Bournemouth and Leeds. Your clue 2 is that this player signed for AFC Bournemouth twice. Okay, so we're getting a little bit closer now. He's not left-footed, and he signed for the club on 2 occasions. This is definitely going to help you. I'm sure of that. Right, Dave, Gary O'Neill spoke to the press this morning. He said the lads were in good spirit. He said, look, the changing room was down after that performance and that final result, but back on Monday, feeling fresh, ready to go for another Premier League game and full of confidence going into this fixture.
Well, I didn't catch this press conference, so I guess I was fast asleep for it. But
You would have been.
But yeah, I mean, as I said, Tottenham was a game that was almost like a bonus game. It was obviously deflating to give up that 2-0 lead. But, these two games coming up before the World Cup are really what's going to be important to put us in a position to go for that second half of the season. So it's going to be a critical game. And another one of those teams that are around us that we can't afford to lose to. And we definitely show that we can attack, we can score goals, and hopefully there's more to come at our end and not so many at their end.
He's looking at the stats just like you, John. He's seeing how he can beat Leeds. He's sure that they probably going to have most of the possession, but we need to be better defensively. He spoke about being disappointed with that third goal, especially. We train about it. We do about all those things all week. So he wants to see better things from stuff they work on. And we just need to, again, be clinical on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm finding some of these presses a bit frustrating with the questions that he gets asked, to be honest, because every single week, bar none, he is asked about his position and whether he's been told anything more about the club. I think we're well and truly aware of what's going on with that at this point now. And then there's about 5 questions about Travers' confidence and how the teams feel after losing a third goal there, and I think generally questions need to be better about being asked managers and a presser to try and actually get some decent information about them other than cliches, which we all appreciate, but maybe could do with a little bit less of when we're trying to get some genuine information out of a manager. But that's just me. So yeah, I think the interesting thing for me was from that one was just how much he talked about the losing the third goal against Tottenham, and how that specific situation he practiced on with the team, which is an interesting one in terms of, I think it just shows how well aware he is of what Bournemouth are likely to be doing in a lot of situations. Like, he is very much looking for Bournemouth to get one goal and try and hold on to it for the most part, and understands that in a lot of situations we are going to be under the cosh for the end of a match, whether it's you get a point, whether you get 3 points. And basically, if there's a lot of people in the box, you've got to be better reacting. You've got to react. You've got to be keeping your eye on the ball, and you've got to deal with those situations better. So, that was particularly interesting for me on that one. But I think he's at least he's confident. He's taking the right things from that defeat. He's taking the positivity from that defeat. He's been taking the positivity from the last few matches. As much as we were all frustrated with Southampton, he very much wanted to focus on that was our best attacking stats wise in the season, even if to the eye it certainly didn't look that way. So I'm like you, Kirk. I think we were hesitant about giving him the job just because he was on a 6-game unbeaten run, and we were waiting for when things start to go wrong, how is he going to react and what is he going to do with the team? And I still would like him to stick around, but I don't think that I want him as our manager going forward permanently. And I'm just hoping that he can get the most out of this team in the last 3 games before we bring someone in that will hopefully be able to take us on a little bit more, along with hopefully some funds to spend in January.
Yeah, that was my feeling right at the very start, my gut feeling. That's not changed. I like Gary O'Neill. I think he's got a place in our club. Whether that works with the potential new manager, only the club and that new manager will know. But Gary O'Neill currently has the job game on game, and he was asked about players. 3 players that are out. We're not going to probably see them between now and the World Cup. That's Neto, David Brooks and Lloyd Kelly. We're pretty much getting back through the season with the centre-backs because we said they're high in confidence. Travers just needs a bit of confidence, and I think we all expected David Brooks to take time. But yeah, 3 really good players, mind, that would likely come into this side if they're in form and fit, and could definitely be an asset after the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't seen David Brooks for a long time. Be looking forward to when he does get back. But most of those players, with the exception of Neto, have been out for most of the season, and we've fared quite well up until the last 3 games, and even in then we've had some moments. So I think that this team is fairly settled in terms of the first 11 and some stuff and a few of the subs, but think, hopefully we can push on and get a good result on Saturday.
And it'll be good to see those players back in a Bournemouth shirt in the new year. So that takes us, lovely guys, to the predicted 11. Now, what I'm going to do is bring on the screen the team that started against Tottenham on Saturday. And again, I do it from memory. I didn't check an app. I'm sure I've got it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that is the team that you're looking at that started on Saturday. I think it was a 4-4-1 for me. I'll come to you first, John. What are you expecting different, if any, on Saturday, 2:00 when Gary O'Neill picks that team?
I just don't know, Kirk, to be honest. I've said this before a few times. I'm pretty confident he hasn't named a single starting 11 formation that's the same compared to any of his other matches. And he's taken charge of 10 games so far, I think. And I'm pretty sure every single one has had a different formation or personnel. So it's ridiculous. I think he has said that, and I do think it was a back five against Spurs. It was Tavernier at right wing back, and then you had what looked like a midfield diamond four with Solanke at the tip, Lerma at the base, Cook on the right, and Billing on the left. But Solanke drifts wherever he likes. I mean, he literally appeared in every corner of the pitch. It was Ahmed Shubal did his typical did his lovely guess the player thing, and there was touch map was all over the place, and of course that was Solanke because he will do everything for the team, which is why we love him. I would expect him actually. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very, very close to what we played against Tottenham, against Leeds. The only difference might be that he would go back to a back four, because I'd imagine he will generally be pretty much ignoring building up from the back against Leeds. I don't expect us to pass it around too much. Leeds are such a high pressing team. They've got the best PPDA numbers in the league, slightly better than Chelsea's. And I expect to see more in Solanke up top. I expect more to absolutely dominate the Leeds defenders. I put them under a hell of a time for 70 minutes, and then hopefully we're in a good position. He's given a bit of a rest, because he did look very tired towards the last 20 minutes against Tottenham. But I think long balls are going to be really important in this game, just to bypass Leeds press, because I don't really want us to have to deal with that, and I don't think that's going to be part of the plan. So I expect Tavernier to get high. Might see Christie back on the left, might see Anthony start on the left, but I think it's going to be. There's a decent chance it's going to be close to, if not completely unchanged.
David, I mean, you've woken up nice and early in Australia for this. I'm going to give you the opportunity as our special guest this morning. I mean, would you change that team? Are you expecting the same? Because, look, I've really taken to Billing, but if you're playing Kiefer Moore, you just know Billing's going to get shifted over to the left, and I really don't think you get the best of him. I mean, I know that some of the fans on Saturday said we took our tallest player out the team, and I don't look at Billing as a consistent header of the ball. So I was happy with that change of Jayden Anthony for Billing. I think it was the other changes after that frustrated me. But looking at that formation, do you think Gary O'Neill's going to do anything else, or is it go again with that team that done so well for 55 minutes?
I think it will be unchanged. I think having Moore and Solanke together, having that direct attack will be important. I think Billing on that left, I'm trying to think of who else could play that position. If we were fairly narrow in allowing the wing backs to try and push on. So I think he's comfortable having Billing as that inside left player. If he plays Anthony, then there's probably a bit of a gap in the middle. I guess we'll wait and see what happens on Saturday.
Who knows? Like John said, This is not easy to guess a predicted 11. Previous seasons have been a lot easier. But look, we'll lock it in. We're going to cheat on this match preview. We're going to go unchanged for the team that started against Tottenham. And hopefully we can take the lead just like we did in that fixture and defend better for the rest of the game. If you're joining this video after we're live, do let us know in your thoughts in the comments if you would pick any other players that are different. Right, I'm going to get the final clue out. I think it's a good time, guys, to get the final clue out and guess the player. And John, you spoke about Ahmed Shubal having guessed the player. He does have guessed the player on the map, but it's not this guessed the player. So we need to get this guessed the player out. Right, final clue. What have we got then? So guess the player. Clue 1 is the players play for both AFC Bournemouth and Leeds. Clue 2 is that this player has signed for AFC Bournemouth on 2 occasions. And clue 3, this player made 12 England international appearances under 21s. This player made 12 international appearances for England's under 21s. Look, go far in for it in the chat. Who do you think we are talking about? We'll give you 1 minute to think about it. John and Dave are going to think about it as well. And as we do that, let's look at the other fixtures in the Premier League this weekend, because there's lots of other games going on, some big games. Nottingham Forest versus Brentford, Wolves against Brighton, Man City take on Fulham, it's Leeds Bournemouth, Everton Leicester, London Derby, Chelsea Arsenal, Aston Villa versus Manchester United, Southampton taking on a very good Newcastle at the moment, West Ham against Crystal Palace, and Tottenham against Liverpool. Outside of Bournemouth, Dave, are you looking at any other game in the Premier League this weekend?
Looking at all of them. In terms of what? In terms of entertaining match?
Entertainment, how it could affect us. Is there any games you might have an eye on?
I think the Forest-Brentford game will be interesting. Obviously, looking at the two teams that I think are weakest in the league, being Forest and Wolves at the moment. So hopefully neither of them get a win. If I'm just looking at pure entertainment, then the Chelsea-Arsenal game looks pretty good to watch.
John, any thoughts on the rest of the Premier League weekend? Any games that you're looking at potentially if the result doesn't go our way at Ellen Road?
Well, I mean, my first thought is just generally who Newcastle are playing at the moment. Obviously because of Eddie Howe, and I am really enjoying watching them at the moment. And hopefully they do win, because that would be Southampton lose, which is good on 2 counts. The Chelsea Arsenal should be a cracking game, and then also Liverpool Tottenham should be fascinating as the Sunday 4:30 kickoff. So I'll definitely be trying to watch that one. But yeah, I think Dave's right as well. Hopefully, just looking at those around us, like the likes of Wolves, will lose to Brighton. But I don't know. We'll see about that one. Brighton haven't been quite the same since they changed manager.
Oh, I tell you what, John, we got a good guess of player. I tell you what, this is really making the chat struggle. Right, Dave, I'm going to come to you first. Do you have a player in mind who we're talking about? Guess the player.
Well, after the 2 clues, I had a player in mind, but that's gone out the window with the England appearances. And the ones that I was thinking about were Eunan O'Kane and his Republic of Ireland, Sam Vokes. I don't believe he's signed for us twice, and I had Max Gradle down as my guess after the second clue. No, I'm stumped. You've got me for that one.
This is a good one, John. I've finally done it. It's taken.
I think I've got it.
Well, hang on a minute then. You think you've got it? Hang on a minute, because let's go into the chat. So Mark Singleton's gone Lewis Cook. Yeah. Not signed twice. Lewis Cook. Lewis signed twice. Question mark from Steve. I don't think the answer's in the chat. Yeah, Sammy thought it might be Maxi Gradle after clue 2. See? But John thinks he's got it.
I think I've got it.
Go on, John.
The England under 21 internationals, I think, confirmed it. Is it Adam Smith?
Yes, it is.
So there's a lot of confusion in the chat. John has gone for Adam Smith. Well, I can confirm that guess the player on this match preview is our vice captain, Adam Smith. Well done to you, John, because that was not easy, and I finally got a good one this week. There you go. Adam Smith. He made 3 loan appearances for Leeds, and then he was on loan with us originally and then came back permanently. Dave, once he said it, you knew it, didn't you?
Yeah. I've completely forgot. And I remembered him playing for Leeds about a few weeks ago, and it just completely slipped my mind in this podcast. So, yeah, well done, John.
Well
Cheers.
done, John. Wow. I'm really proud of myself as well. I literally got a really good guess of player. So I'm really happy with that because I could have gone for lots of really good ones. Lewis Cook, Maxi Gradle. There was loads out there. So there we go. That's your guess of player. A very good one this week. And now it's time for your score predictions. Get going in the chat again as John and Dave think about what the score will be this weekend between Leeds and Bournemouth. Time for those score predictions in the chat below. Right, guys, I need to get some stats on the table. We've already talked about it, Dave. We've never, ever got a point at Ellen Road. That is madness. We've not played them an awful lot. I think it's 7 visits to Ellen Road, but still, we haven't got a point. I'm gonna choose my score prediction last, I think. Dave, how are you feeling about this game? What are you looking for, and what is your score prediction?
What I'm looking for is some points. But no, I think this game will change the history books. I think we'll get our first point at Ellen Road. I think we've got enough to be defensively minded enough to keep them out, hopefully, but also go there and score. I'm probably thinking it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and I think the most important thing for us is not to lose there. So I'll take a draw and hope for a win.
Draw straight in for Dave. Now, AFC Bournemouth Germany has joined our opposition guest for 8-8. And now, if that happens, Kiefer Moore all 8, I think AFC Bournemouth Germany said earlier on. And if that's not a match of the day as first game, then the whole thing needs looking at. Gary Lineker. But yeah, some game that would absolutely be. Martin has said that history has to change. O'Neill has shown he can get a tune out of this team. Draw most likely, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say a clean sheet 2-0. Mark Singleton's going for a 2-2. And Bournemouth Germany's coming back in with his serious 2-2. Scoreline, Stephen Dyer, how are you? He's going for 2-1. Sammy's back in on track with 3-1. We'll stop there in the chat. John, how are you feeling about this fixture and your score prediction?
Well, I mentioned it earlier that I think this is, Leeds. This is Leeds' least way to phrase it. It's not exactly a nightmare game for Leeds, but it's certainly the team that stylistically we will pair most effectively against Leeds for in our favour, by completely missing their press, by playing over them, by having a big, strong centre forward in Kiefer Moore to play off, and someone that we can rely on to be able to completely avoid the Leeds press. And when you look at the teams that they've played, certainly at home recently, they've drawn 1-1 with Everton. They drew 0-0 with Villa, although they had a man sent off. They lost 1-0 to Arsenal, but they did play really well in that game. They lost 3-2 at home to Fulham. So I am confident that we will get a result. And I think we do need to be looking to try and win this one. I think that we can't necessarily just rely on a point. As much as a point would be good, any point away from home is a good point in the Premier League. A win would be so good for us. And I think we can do it. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
2-1 for John, a victory for the Cherries. Gene's gone for 3-1 to the Cherries. I got confused then because it was the wrong way round, but he did say Cherries. So 3-1. Chris Hubble's also on the 3-1 trail. Carroll's going for a 2-2. Stu's going for a clean sheet 2-0. Morgan's won in an absolute cracker up north for a 5-3 to the Cherries. Interesting stuff. Positive Cherries, even off the back of 3 losses. Right, what am I feeling? Guys, I think I've been so boring this season with score predictions, but I am bringing Newcastle vibes. We're probably not expected to do much. Leeds are off the back of that win against Liverpool, although is that going to apply more pressure on Jesse Marsch? I don't personally rate Marsch that well, but he's got some good players in that team, some youthful talent. I'm going for Newcastle vibes. I'm going 1-1. I know it's so boring, Dave, but I am going to go for it. And I think that's what you went for, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1-1. It was 1-1. Right. Brilliant. Time for those score predictions to close. If any more come through, I will show them. So please do subscribe to Cherries Red Army if you're new to the channel. We really do enjoy these interactive and live match previews. Also hit the like button. We want to get to a minimum of 50. Thank you for anyone who's watched this back. And again, thank you to our monthly members and our sponsors, Aquashine Exteriors. Aquashine Exteriors details are also in the description. Check them out for all the work they can do around our local Bournemouth area for all your guttering, your driveways, etc. Dave, it's been great to have you on. You're going to enjoy the start of your day in Australia. Leave us with some final thoughts. There are 6 points up for grabs for the Cherries. We surely need to pick up something in the next 2 Premier League games.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. These are 2 big games before the World Cup, and I think a minimum of 4 points from them is required just to give us a little bit of breathing space and keep our head above water. It's been a great season so far in the Premier League, and thoroughly enjoying watching us in it.
John, we get to these parts of the season where we think, oh no, when are we going to win our next football match? But it just happens. That's football. We're probably really low at the moment, although the chat doesn't tell us that. But you never know. We could win on Saturday. You think we're going to win on Saturday? Leave us with some final thoughts ahead of that kickoff at 3 p.m.
So I think the biggest thing that I'm hoping to see in this game coming up against Leeds is Tavernier playing on the right again and going up against Pascal Struijk, their left back, who, in the same way that I'm looking up stats now and again, Adam Smith is unfortunately dribbled past a lot as a defender for Bournemouth. However, in the Leeds side, they also have one player that gets dribbled past a lot, and that's their left back, who hopefully Tavernier will be going up against, and he is our dribbly boy of the team. So after his assist in the most recent game with a lovely move where he run into space, lovely pass for Kiefer Moore using his weak foot as well, putting it across nicely. I'm hoping that he can put in some good work going up against their defence, take on his man, get some crosses in, and provide another assist. So I'm hoping to see another goal involvement from Tavernier against Leeds.
That will be very nice. Thank you, John.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again, Kirk. Looking forward to the next one.
Thank you so much, Dave. Enjoy your day in Australia, and we will definitely have you on again 100%. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
Fantastic. Please do hit the like button, and anyone who didn't join us live, do let us know your thoughts in the comments. Also follow us across our socials. Look, I'm not going to say this now, but we might do a live match reaction on Saturday. We'll let you know. So follow the YouTube, hit notification bell, make sure you check out the community page within YouTube and our socials, because if we do, it will give you an opportunity to give us live thoughts in the chat if we do it. So just check that out. But on Saturday, our guest of player that John correctly answered will lead AFC Bournemouth out at Ellen Road as we aim to get our first point at Ellen Road in our history. And as I said, boy, do we need it. From me, John, and David, and Darren earlier on from the LS11, we'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Cherries. See you soon. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.